by voting in November, that affect your life? What?
Well,
give me
you
an
know,
example.
I actually do think, as a feminist, that voting means something different for women than it does for men, because men have a certain amount of privilege, and to not vote, to me, is to protect their status quo, and is actually casting a vote for the status quo, which will be protecting their privilege.
Sometimes, if we have a lot of faith, without our knowledge, we become a blind person.
Right.
Blindly we accept everything. Buddha's against that belief. Buddha says, Buddha says, do not be led by report.
What others say.
Yeah, do not be led by hearsays. Do not be led by traditions. Even Buddha says, furthermore, do not be led by authority of religious texts. Even Buddhist Bible say, Buddha said, don't believe it is true, it is right for your life, for society, except if it is harmful for you, it's harmful, so society, give up it. Even the Holy Bible says so. We Buddhists mention is the Holy Bible means the Buddhist Bible.
Over this whole period, I became more and more involved in video, and of course, now I'm doing this show once a month. Whenever people see my art, they seem to have some questions. It amuses some, of course, it entertains some, but it really perplexes some. And there's always a certain series of questions that people tend to ask me. For example, they say, how did you get this way? Do you think the world is an orderly place? Or do you think it's not? Or would you prefer it not to be?
Well, I don't know how no, it's not orderly at all. But, I don't think that my preference really has that much to do with it.
What gave you the idea of, like, not painting in galleries, but painting stuff on street corners? And many of you may have seen her work just driving around Los Angeles. You think this is funny? Okay, well, maybe we'll just roll in some of the pictures, and you'll tell us where they're located, if they're actually in places in LA, and if they're gallery things, then you'll tell us that. You ready to roll in some of those pictures for us? Let's take a look at them. They're going to be over here. Is this one out on the street someplace?
3rd and La Brea.
Okay, 3rd and La Brea. You can go and see it.
No, that was a year ago.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether it's because you've been performing for a while.
Maybe somewhat. I mean, there's just, you can't even like think about how you're coming off. You just have to be yourself, and that's all I can do.
Have you tried other things?
Well, the more you think, the more you stink. That's what we came up with. That's what I heard somebody say about rock music. The more you think, the more you stink. And it's true. The more you think about playing the song, the more you make mistakes. The more you think about what you look like, the stupider you look, like stupider I look. Everything. So this is the worst enemy here, this little head. Yet.
Part of the appeal of when I come and listen to your band is that you're funny and you're smart. You being the whole band, maybe you being you particularly, but it's fun to watch that.
Oh, wow.
To watch you interacting with the audience, teasing them, and the other bands don't have much humor in them.
Oh, wow. Well, that's so cool. Thank you for saying so. But if I was thinking really hard about that,
Yeah, I'm not saying that you do that.
I would be self-conscious and I would be frozen, I'm sure. Yeah, so it just kind of comes out how we are.
I just think that's so funny.
But you know, I think I should tell the world's greatest joke.
Okay.
Perhaps what is maybe the very best joke there is.
Okay.
And this is not my opinion, of course. I mean, I believe it. But I think it was first put forth by Kurt Vonnegut that this was the world's funniest joke. And he says that it was told to him by a Russian translator for he was doing some book tour or something, some woman, a linguist in Russia who told him this joke. It makes it even funnier, but it's about the world's dirtiest limerick contest. You know this, John. A guy, every year he enters the world's dirtiest limerick contest, and he always wins. He always has the world's dirtiest limerick. And so it's that time to make his entry, he writes a very, very dirty limerick, sends it in, and sits back to wait for them to contact him and say, you went first prize. Doesn't hear from him. He's a little bit put out, so he calls him and goes, hi, I'm just calling to see about the results for World's Dirtiest Limerick. They said, oh, yeah. Well, you didn't win. He said, what? They said, well, you wrote a very dirty limerick, but it was not the best. It was not the dirtiest limerick in the world. He's just astounded. He says, well, who beat me? They said, well, we have the name of this woman who wrote a dirtier limerick than you. He goes, God, I'm really amazed. Say, is there a phone number? I'd just like to call her up and talk to her. Say, well, there's no phone number, but there is an address here. If you'd like it, we can give you an address. So he gets the address, and the address is in Ireland. So he thinks, God, I can't believe this. And he's determined he wants to meet the person who bested him at the world's dirtiest limerick. So he travels to Ireland, and he comes to this address. It turns out it's a order of nuns. And the woman whose name was on this thing is a nun, a little gray-haired, tiny Irish nun, like 60, 70 years old. And he comes and says, excuse me, I'm this guy from the States. I always win World's Dirtiest Limerick contest, and apparently they told me you won this year. Well, she said, oh, yes, it's true. I was the world's dirty limerick writer this year. He says, this is incredible. I mean, I write dirty limericks. I mean, I'm just astounded. She says, oh, yes, well, you know, it's just sort of a thing I have. And he says, well, if you don't mind, would you mind reciting the winning dirty limerick? And she says, oh, all right. She says, well, you know, the thing is, there are certain words that are a little too dirty, you know. I wouldn't want to be saying them here, you know. And if you don't mind, I'll substitute the word tay for the dirty words. And he says, all right. She says, all right then. Tay, 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 and they fucked in a river of shit.
Yeah, it's a silly joke. I don't know whether that's the world's.
I think it may be the world's best joke. Everything about the construction of it.
You know, that was kind of part of my inspiration for my whole nihilism thing.
Yeah.
Let's see him try to absorb nihilism.
Yeah.
Finally made something that you
No
can't
money.
swallow.
No money there. You don't have to worry.
I
You're right.
thought you wanted to be absorbed and, you know, make your deal and then get the
Make my
money.
deal sell out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll see. But if there's any way they can absorb it, they'll try. But I don't know.
But you know, rebellion always emerges again. At least that's how I feel to be optimistic. It's like, and everything will get absorbed again because there always is money to be made off of anything in a way.
And so